Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run over me.
Hi, this is Jan Lewis. Welcome to Be My Guest. Today we have our town manager here in Upton, Derek Brindisi. Welcome, Derek.
Thank you.
Welcome back. We had you on back, we think maybe July, was it, perhaps?
Yeah, somewhere early summertime period, I was here, June-ish time period, yeah.
We're going to have him on as a regular, too, keep up to date what's going on. He brought some great information with him. I'm going to let you start rolling with that. Go for
Sure.
it. Yeah.
Great. So, again, thanks for having me. This is a really good time to come and speak to the community because November 2nd at 7 p.m. over at the high school, Nipmuc High School, in the auditorium, we'll be holding the 2021 special town meeting. So as customary, we have a number of articles that we are expecting a legislative body, and those are the folks that attend town meeting, to vote on a various number of articles. Everything from the acquisition of the cemetery to the acquisition of some capital for the DPW, and a number of other legislative items are going to be heard on November 2nd. So we're expecting a good turnout, and we're expecting to, have a good meeting.
And we can have you wear your masks if you want to, vaccinated or not, right? Is there going to be anybody at the door to have to see your card, or is it just the honor system?
Yeah, it's definitely the honor system. So we try to follow CDC guidance as far as what they are expecting for how we manage crowds in the COVID environment. And right now, it's for those individuals that are unvaccinated are expected to wear masks indoors. And so that's going to be our expectation. We won't ask for folks to show their vaccination cards, but it's definitely the honor system. And we're looking at the numbers here in town, and we don't see it's kind of a stable environment as far as the number of cases. Certainly not anything like we were last year at this time, where there was a dramatic uptick in the number of cases, not only locally but nationally as well. So we feel like, given the fact that many of our population has been vaccinated, that's helped mitigate the spread this fall.
Well, I was telling Derek that if I was uncomfortable sitting too close to somebody, you just get up. There are plenty of seats in the auditorium at the high school, and go off by yourself and sit somewhere. Easy, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's a great example, because if folks wanted to sit towards the back because they were a little worried about sitting around others and shoulder to shoulder. What we have been doing the last couple of meetings, instead of calling for a voice vote, which is traditionally how it's always done, the moderator has switched to using red and green cards. So if you vote yes for the article, you show your green card. If you vote no for the article, you show your red card. And so people don't have to yell. And so even if you are sitting towards the back, the moderator will see your green card, and your vote will be counted.
That's a great idea. Who came up with that?
We came up with it a few meetings ago. I think during the very first annual meeting we had because of COVID. We were all wearing masks, as you know, at the time, and we needed another way because we didn't want people to project, because back then CDC was saying that you could transmit within a 6-foot distance. So we were trying to keep people from talking as much as possible. We said, okay, cards will work. Yeah. And now we've seen a lot of our neighbors, they went ahead and bought paddles. So they have green and red paddles. So this is caught on, using this color-coded system.
I like that. So during the town meeting, November 2nd, the high school, everybody will be given a paddle?
We'll be given red and green cards.
Red and green cards, and they're big. You can hold them up?
That's right.
That's awesome. You don't have to scream.
That's right.
I like that. Yeah. So keep us up to date now. What's going to happen?
So I would say, not a lot of controversial items happening at this town meeting, but I would say one of the articles that will be probably most discussed is there's a few articles that are all linked together. The Article 2A, 2B, 2C, and 2D, and they're all kind of in the 2 series because they're all linked together. And so Article 2A speaks directly to the town acquiring what is now the Maplewood Cemetery.
That's the one on Maple Ave. Very old.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Got the white picket fence around the sides.
Yeah.
It's got a very beautiful stone wall in the front entrance of the cemetery.
That's where we saw a bear cub going across one time.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
So it's 20 acres of land.
Yeah.
The Maplewood Cemetery Association, which is privately held, this cemetery, approached our cemetery commissioners, who are 3 elected officials, I would say probably 8-9 months ago, and said that they're getting too old to continue to manage this cemetery, and they knew the town for, I would say, close to 10 years, if not longer, has been talking about acquiring more land, buying more land, because Lakeview Cemetery was starting to run out of space.
I've noticed that there's quite a few people who've moved in over there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, because this has been almost a decade-long conversation about the town having to develop an additional cemetery in town, it made perfect sense for the Maplewood Association to approach our cemetery commission and say, listen, you guys are looking for land, we're looking to get rid of land, it's already a cemetery, it's already been cleared, and so it's no cost to the town to acquire the land. Now, there will be other costs associated with this, as you can imagine.
Maintenance.
Maintenance, so we're going to have to hire one additional person to work at the DPW to help maintain this. This is, again, 20 acres of land. And then there'll be some upfront capital costs. But those are minor. A lot of credit goes to Ed Phillips, who's our chairman of the Cemetery Commission, who's been working directly with Maplewood, who worked out an agreement that the Maplewood Association would buy the equipment that we need. So leaf blowers, weed whackers, lawn mowers, and the only thing the town, the taxpayers have to pay is contribute 50% of the cost of a dump truck. So a dump truck costs about $70,000. So Article 2B is to ask the town meeting members to support $35,000 so we can put towards the acquisition of a dump truck.
I had no idea that Maple Ave Cemetery was that big. All I've always seen is from the road. You mean, how many acres now?
It's total 20 acres.
And how many at Lakeview?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm not sure.
It's a lot smaller.
It's a lot smaller. So when most people think of Maplewood Cemetery, they look at the space that's, in the 4 corners. So the white picket fence wrapped around the 2 sides and the back, and then the stone wall in the front. That's what most people think of Maplewood Cemetery.
That's
but
it.
if you look at there's a big grassy area from the wall that stretches all the way to Pleasant Street. That big grassy field is also part of Maplewood Cemetery. Hasn't been developed yet because there's been no need to, but that's also going to be part of the acquisition. In addition to that, towards the back of this parcel of land is a wooded area that abuts BBT. So again, 20 acres of land. The cemetery commissioners have told us that we won't have to have the conversation of acquiring more land for cemeteries for at least another 50 to 60 years.
Wow.
So this, and what people probably don't realize is that it's required by law for municipalities to have space to bury their residents. So we are required by law to always have cemetery space. Now, over time, will cemetery space not have to be so important because there's more people being cremated? Probably, but we're still going to need space over time. So, if I was projecting this, I think we probably are closer to more like 75 years of cemetery space we're going to acquire.
It's amazing. Does Pickering, our local funeral, are they aware of that we may be getting more room now?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they know. I'm not sure if the cemetery commissioners have had those conversations with Pickering, but they do interact on a weekly basis for obvious reasons. So I'm sure they are aware of this new acquisition. So that's kind of those articles there are going to probably take up the most time because it's a big conversation. Acquiring 20 acres of land, putting resources behind maintaining that land. So I would expect the town meeting will have a number of questions.
Do you think we'll be able to solve it at the town meeting?
Town meeting has been great to our boards and committees. The town meeting members have typically supported the articles that have been presented in front of them. And I've been town manager for 4.5 years now, and in my 4.5 years, town meeting has been great to our boards and committees. And it's really our boards and committees are the ones that put these articles forward. So these articles come from the Cemetery Commission. We have other articles that come from our Department of Public Works. articles that come from, say, the Economic Development Committee, library trustees, they all put articles forward.
Yeah.
And so before they even get to town meeting, these articles have been vetted through the Board of Selectmen. They have been vetted through, in some cases, the Capital Budget Committee, if it's a capital acquisition.
Yeah.
In most cases, in all cases, when it's a financial interest, the Finance Committee reviews those requests. So I think town meeting overall thinks all of our board, our Finance Committee, Board of Selectmen, and others have already vetted this.
Mhm.
So it has to be a solid request. It's not like it's just kind of a random request. So to answer your question in a long-winded way, no, I think that although there'll be great discussion, I think the vote will take place, and I'm hopeful that it'll be a favorable vote.
Well, yeah, I can't see why not, because our town, obviously, we have more people in our town, and we need the space to bury our loved ones. Why not if it's there? Why
And it's
not?
free.
Yeah, I don't think many of us want to be apartment style, like the triple deckers.
Right.
I don't want to have somebody up over me either.
Right.
It'd be kind of hard to get the periscope up and watch the beach, from the
But that's a great point, because if we don't do this, town meeting will be having this conversation down the road, and it may not be about Maplewood, because that'll be water on the bridge if we don't vote for it.
Yep.
But town meeting will have to take up. The next article will be, we need $500,000 to buy X land in town
Yeah.
that we have to clear cut and make a cemetery.
And we already have this land.
Right. This
And you
is.
said it extends past, behind BVT?
It's behind BVT. There's wooded acreage behind BVT
Yeah.
that has been untouched, and then there's that land, like I mentioned earlier, that goes along Maple Ave down to Pleasant Street, which is basically a grass field right now.
Boy, I didn't know it. I bet a lot of people didn't realize that.
Probably not, right? So we'll have images so people can see the parcel and what we're talking about.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what that's all about. Like, oh gosh, what a great idea. Now, when the upcoming redo, or what are we going to be voting on that day, besides the cemetery situation? What do you think? The Racine building, keeping it?
The steam building's not on the warrant. We're still going through the process of what to do with the Racine building after the library vacates the building. So let's talk about that for a minute. The Board of Selectmen this past Tuesday, they have voted to authorize the execution of a contract with Hutter Construction is going to be the general contractor. They won the bid. They had the lowest bid. We vetted them through DCAM and did their reference checks, and they passed all those reference checks with flying colors. So we're expecting for the community center to break ground. We're hoping in December.
Mm-hmm.
They have approximately a 12 to 14 month construction period. So once the community center is open, we cut the ribbon on that. The library is going to vacate the Vestine building,
Yeah.
and then becomes the next question. What's going to be the final use of this building? And Tom Baer, the president from the Historical Society, was in front of the Board of Selectmen just a few weeks back, talking about different ideas for the Board of Selectmen to consider. And I'm sure you folks should come in and talk to the Board of Selectmen and give your ideas, because you're a tenant here as well, right?
Yeah, we need the studio. We need a studio, right?
And the Board of Selectmen, they want to hear all that, because they don't want to make an arbitrary decision and find out, oh geez, we didn't think about the studio. Oh geez, well, we didn't realize that the Historical Society needed 1,000 square foot of space. So they're doing their due diligence and allowing folks to provide input to see what ultimately becomes of this building. There's a lot of different, people throw a lot of, you hear all this stuff all the time, a lot of different ideas. Some people want to sell it to a developer. Some people want to just renovate it and keep the cable television and the Historical Society here. Others have said, let's take the building down and make open space. So there's just a lot of ideas that are being put forth. But at the end of the day, in order for the Board of Selectmen to determine its final use, we have to go to town meeting. So again, this is our democracy. These are all the checks and balances take place.
So that'll be up on this town meeting. That'll be up for voting.
It'll be up at a future town meeting, not to be determined yet. I think what we all want to see is that when these decisions are starting to be made, we want to be able to go to town meeting and say, that the Board of Selectmen needs authorizations to do X with it, whether that's renovate it.
Yep.
And so if it's renovated, then we're going to have to go to town meeting and ask for an appropriation of millions of dollars to renovate.
So we're looking down the road at another town meeting.
Yeah, we're probably not, honestly, we're probably a year to 2 years away before we even go to town meeting. So I want folks to know who have interest in the Milton Esteem building that no decision can be made without going to town meeting.
Right.
The Board of Selectmen doesn't have the sole authority to do anything with this building without town meeting approval. So
Right.
if the Board of Selectmen decided it's in their best interest to sell the building, we still have to go to town meeting and ask permission to sell the building. So we have hundreds of voices and actually hundreds of votes will go into this final decision.
We're talking with Derek Brindisi, and he's our town manager here in the town of Upton, Massachusetts. If you're watching out of state, I got a friend in Japan who watches this all the time. This is what it's all about, our democracy and how we get things going. Now, what else is going to be coming up at the town meeting?
So sometimes the big one, we have a few other items, some big capital expenses are coming up. As you can imagine, the DPW, every year they need new pieces of equipment. So a big item that's coming up is a $293,000 truck, 10-wheeler, and it's because we have some trucks that are aging out. CPC has an article to restore the stone wall in front of the Maplewood Cemetery. It's part of acquiring that. We have some money transfers, so I think folks probably are aware of that. This past year, we didn't have any money set aside to put towards our reconstruction of our roads. In years past, we'd have an article where we have almost $600,000 was set aside to continue to improve our road infrastructure. But because of everything that was going on with the school district, we didn't want to ask the town meeting members to support an override. So what we did to save taxpayer dollars is we took the money we would have normally spent on roads and we appropriated for the schools. So the long and short of that story is that the override failed in Mendon this past summer. And because the override failed in Mendon, the schools had to reduce their budget. Because the schools had to reduce their budget, it saved our taxpayers $600,000. So because we were able to save $600,000 at this meeting, we want to take 170 of it and put a little bit of that savings back into our roads budget. Is $170,000 a lot of money when it comes to roads? Absolutely not. But it's better than nothing.
So we'll vote on that one too.
So we're going to vote on the $169,000 to be put back towards the roads budget. So we have 169. We get another 300 from the state. So we'll have close to $500,000 to start putting towards our roads again. But our DPW has done a great job in the last 4 years of improving our road infrastructure. I've talked to board members, selectmen, who have been, board members for decades, and they have said to me in the past, I've never seen our roads look so good. So we want to continue that momentum. We know people appreciate roads. They appreciate our sidewalks when we improve those. That all kind of builds character to our community, and so we want to continue to maintain that momentum.
We're talking with Derek Brindisi, the town manager here in Upton. Derek, how can they reach you if they'd like to have you answer some questions?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different ways. You can always call the office number at 508-529-2901, or you can email me directly at and then my last name, Brindisi, at uptonma.gov. So those are the kind of easy ways to call us, get in touch with us. But Town Hall is open 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and then 8 a.m. to noontime on Fridays. And we welcome, if folks want to come in and have a conversation. I've had a lot of members, especially before a town meeting, they'll come in and, no appointment necessary, unannounced, and say, hey, can I just spend a few minutes? I had a few questions.
Yeah.
I was reviewing the warrant, and I have a few questions on a couple of these articles.
Right.
And I'll sit down, I'll answer their questions, and they'll feel like, they're more prepared for a town meeting. We did, since we're talking about that, the Board of Selectmen, about 3 meetings ago, they started to really try to engage all of our residents regarding town meeting. And so the last 3 town meetings, we've had these inserts that we've sent home. A couple times we've sent these inserts through the town crier. Last spring, we actually sent direct mailings of the actual warrant with all the articles, so people could read it, and if they have any interest, they can show up at town meeting, and it went directly to their door. In the past, we posted online, we posted on social media, we posted in front of the town hall of the warrant, but that doesn't connect with everybody. So the Board of Selectmen said, listen, if we want to connect with every person in town, we're going to mail them this document directly to the house. So
when does it come? Has it been come?
it was delivered this past Friday. So everyone in town should have a 2 weeks notice on the warrant, and they should have seen it. It was an insert in the town crier this past Friday.
Okay. You know what? I think many of us have a post office box, and so they came in with a town crier, and it was in there. I think sometimes we think it's an ad.
Oh, yeah.
That's why maybe I didn't see it. Don't throw it away, folks. Don't. And it looks just like what Derek has got right there. It's for real. It's not an ad, to shop anywhere. It's the real deal. Oh my God! No wonder we're not used to.
Yeah, no. And again, it's fairly new. This is only the 3rd time we've done it, and I know the town of Mendon has been doing it for many years. It's actually part of their bylaw that they have to mail us to every home. So it's just a quick and easy way to let folks know. And if they want to participate, great. And if a lot of folks, we typically get 150 to 200 people to show up at town meeting.
Yeah.
Our annual town meeting, we had a lot more because of what was going on in the schools. We had a big vote for the community center, $12.3 million vote for the community center. So, when we have big items like that, we definitely draw a bigger crowd.
So they're going to start breaking down for the community center in December, right? But in the cold, I would think that wouldn't be a good time to break ground.
So first thing's in November, and we're going to post it. We just haven't got an exact date, but since we're talking, it's really important to let folks know. We're going to close the playground sometime in November.
Okay. Yeah.
So we'll see. Everybody will see a crew out there in November taking apart all the playground pieces.
Right.
We're going to store that at the DPW in containers for about a year. So that's kind of the first you'll see. And then in December, the general contractor will mobilize. We'll have a groundbreaking ceremony, and then they'll start to do the site work. So, it's fairly common to do site work throughout the year, because you dig in, you break, depending on if we hit any ledge, there may be some breaking of rock in the ledge and stuff like that. So we'll see that take place probably through the better part of December, maybe even January. And then depending on the weather, it then becomes, is the weather working with us so that we can pour a foundation?
Yeah.
So, but that remains to be seen. But we definitely think that we can do the site work sometime in early part of December and get that going.
Will we see the surveyors, or have they already been there?
We've already done all the surveying work. We've already done all the test pits and boring, so we have a good sense of what we need to do. Certainly, we'll have to have the corners surveyed so these guys know where they're digging the foundation, stuff like that. But there's a lot of this. That's gonna change the face of the town center, the downtown area forever.
Well, it's going to be where the playground is now, right? And will it do anything to the VFW?
So it's not going to impact the VFW in the sense of the building. So the building from rear to front will start, you just pointed out, at the playground, and then it'll come all the way
forward
to the pretty much close, probably 10 feet off the sidewalk. And then on our property will be the building. We have about 20 parking spaces that'll be on town land.
Yeah.
The other 50 plus parking spaces that the community center will use will be on the VFW land.
Okay.
So what we did is we worked out an agreement with the VFW that we would lease those 50 plus parking spaces for $7,000 a year.
Yeah.
So that folks who go to the community center can use those parking spaces to go to the community center, to go to the playground, to go to the ball fields, which is on VFW land. So, that's going to be what is known as a kind of a shared parking lot for many different uses. The VFW obviously would use it for their own. So this is probably there's almost 100 parking spaces on that. So
Yeah.
the planning board's approved it. They feel like that's got plenty of parking to support those services. The Board of Selectmen approved the parking agreement. We had to sign the VFW.
Yeah.
So things are moving along well, and that's, when we cut the ribbon, it's going to be, I think for many people in this community, a sigh of relief, because I know that there are individuals in this community that have been trying to get a new library for over 25 years.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's finally going to happen, and so kudos to those individuals that didn't just walk away the first time they were told no, or the second or third time they were told no. They just kept pressing and finally...
Persistent. The church that's going to be, our old, what was it, Holy Angels Church there?
Yes.
Have they made any decision? We got about 5 minutes left. Did they make any decision on that? Or
Yeah,
not?
that's a great question. So no decisions have been made. The Economic Development Committee is working on what is known as an RFP, a request for proposals. So that piece, there's a number of parcels that are all connected, and we issued the RFP back in February of 2020, which 4 weeks later the pandemic hit, and no developers were responding to proposals then because nobody knew what the future was going to bring. The Economic Development Committee, working with our town planner, is actually rewriting that, and they're going to reissue that probably late winter, early spring. We have really strong indications that we'll be successful on that, and then at some point in the future we'll be working with a developer or 2 developers to redevelop those properties. So that's the hope on what we plan on doing, with that space over there. And so the hope is that we'll have restaurants and coffee shops and some residential units all occupying that space at some point in the future.
That's interesting. The residential, would they be Section 8 or assisted? What do you think?
Section 8, probably not Section 8, but it could be a mix of market rate housing and affordable housing, all in that area. So that's really important because that's going to be a big one. So we'll have to come back at some point in the future and talk about that one.
Oh, yeah.
But the other piece before we break is on November 1st, the town is finally going to acquire a 29-acre gift from Mr. Harvey Trask.
Where is the gift?
There's 29 acres of land that he used to own prior to him passing away on Mendon Street. So it's his old farm. And he willed that property to the town of Upton. It's been sitting in probate court for a few years, but on November 1st we're finally going to acquire that for recreation purposes. So more plans coming.
That will be fantastic.
Yes.
Well, we've been talking with Jared Brindisi. He is our town manager here in Upton, Massachusetts. He'll be back. What do you think? Another 2 months, 3 months? What do you think?
Yeah, I think maybe right after the holidays we'll come back and do a check-in.
Yeah, maybe they will have started to break ground, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is going to be so much fun.
We should get some footage for when they do the groundbreaking.
That's exactly. Aha. Thank you. And our videographer is here, Paul. Thanks to Paul.
That's right.
And also I want to say a shout out to Matt. He does a great job in our library. Hang in there. And Paul, our custodian, he does a great job too. Boy, you ask him to do something, he does it. He's terrific. All right. We're going to have Derek Brindisi back with us, and it's been great. Thank you for coming. I know you're busy.
No, thank you for having me. I'll definitely be back.
All right. See you next time. I'll be my guest.
Riding on a shooting star, heading out toward a dream. Tomorrow's even closer than it seems.